One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. Luke DeCock with the News and Observer is back with us on One Question. Luke's going to help us cut through the political dance that's going on in North Carolina right now. We found out yesterday, of course, or as we are recording this, we know that the North Carolina General Assembly is headed to a special session tomorrow, and the expectation is that the statewide HB2 bill is going to be repealed after the city of Charlotte did something similar this morning on the issue. But Luke, give us some idea of the intricacies that have taken place, or what people are saying has taken place over the last 24 hours to 1 week for HB2, which we know has some really deep, interesting, specific ties to college athletics.
Well, and it actually goes back just a little bit farther than that. The disputed North Carolina gubernatorial election was finally settled with the Democratic Attorney General Roy Cooper defeating the incumbent Republican Pat McCrory, who was a supporter of HB2, which I think we all know now is the so-called bathroom bill that was intended to react to a Charlotte LGBT rights ordinance, and was sort of generally perceived to be overreaching and heavy-handed, and actually removed all discrimination protections within North Carolina for the LGBT community. All of this was under the pretense of what bathrooms can transgender people use, depending on their birth certificate, and so on and so forth. And the net effect, as we all know now, was many organizations, businesses, sports leagues, and NCAA, ACC, NBA, started moving events out of North Carolina. Some states like New York and California had travel bans. There's another black eye for North Carolina in a sort of period of time in which the state seems to be collecting them. So this all started with the Charlotte LGBT rights ordinance. The Republican General Assembly, which pushed through HB2 in a hastily called special session last March, has said that it would consider repealing HB2 if the Charlotte City Council repealed its own ordinance, which it to this point has been unwilling to do. That changed for whatever reason today. Charlotte said if it would repeal its ordinance through December 31st. If HB2 was repealed by December 31st, then the Charlotte ordinance would stay off the books. The new governor-elect said that he would encourage a special session. He can't actually call it. Only the incumbent governor can. But it looks like they will call a special session for tomorrow to repeal HB2. The last time they called a special session for hurricane relief, they ended up passing a whole bunch of other bills, so who knows what will actually happen. But we appear to be on the verge of ending North Carolina's 9-month HB2 nightmare.
And so connecting this, of course, to the top of college athletics, and that is NCAA bids. And you tweeted earlier, of course, that the next round of bids will be awarded in April of next year. Is it your understanding that the powers that be within the state of North Carolina have been in full contact with the NCAA, and as soon as potentially HB2 comes off the books, that their bids will be reconsidered for the next bid cycle?
Well, they're being considered with HB2, and you know the new form that the NCAA makes bid cities or host institutions fill out, requires the host to sort of lay out whatever potential discriminatory laws may be in effect in their jurisdiction. So, they've been aware of this all along, and the NCAA, when it pulled its 2016-17 championships out of North Carolina earlier this fall, did a couple things. One, it left the 17-18 championships in place, and two, it pushed back the bid cycle for 18-19 through 21-22. It didn't give a time frame at that point, but the obvious implication was for North Carolina to get it back together. Today, they said that the announcement is scheduled for April, so that kind of gives you a sense of the time frame. But people around here have been very aware of those NCAA implications. Maybe if they weren't originally, they are now. I was in a meeting of the Centennial Authority, which is the state, county, city, municipal body that oversees NC State's arena, PNC Arena, where the Carolina Hurricanes also play. And that is a bipartisan board with many appointees from both sides of the aisle. And they were all sort of pursuing or debating about how to pursue change, because whether they were Republican appointees or Democratic appointees, HB2 is killing that arena. Concerts, the NCAA tournament, things like that. They're very important to that arena, which and its finances. So there is a widespread awareness among the people who are not in the General Assembly as to the damage this has done and why it has needed to change. So, this should, if repeal goes through tomorrow, and who knows what will really happen, this should put North Carolina back in the frame for future NCAA events. It should put North Carolina back in the frame for future ACC championships. And the NBA presumably will bring the All-Star game back to Charlotte, but this should open the door for sort of a more normal sports process in the state of North Carolina, which, as we all know, is not only a long time and profitable and enthusiastic host for NCAA basketball tournament sites, but every sort of NCAA championship at every Division 1, 2, 3 level as well.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the ACC and your expectation of what their or how quickly they may respond to a repealed HB2. And also, in your view, are there damaged relationships here that will have residual effect on NCAA or ACC bid processes?
I don't think, to answer the second question first, I don't think so, because, all of the people involved with bringing those events to North Carolina have been in communication with the NCAA all along. They're not people who have typically supported HB2. They've been against it. They've made that clear to the NCAA and ACC and NBA. So, those people have actually been part of the group that's been trying to broker change all along, especially the Charlotte sports group that lost the ACC championship football game, as well as the NBA All-Star game. They've been trying to find ways to fix this. So no, I don't think there'll be long-term impact. I think people who have sporting events out for bid will be excited about having the opportunity to bring them back to North Carolina. And as far as the ACC goes, they're not going to say anything today. It's a little touchy right now because no one wants to spoil what could happen tomorrow. My expectation is their position will be the same as the NCAA, which is 2016 events, spring 2017 events will not be coming back to North Carolina. That ship has sailed. But 17, 18, and beyond remain in the frame. And I think that's probably the most sensible approach to take, whether you're the ACC or the NCAA. You don't want to, you've come up with this partnership with Coastal Carolina to have the ACC women's basketball tournament in Myrtle Beach and put a lot of work in on that. You don't want to yank that away from Myrtle Beach and give it right back to Greensboro, as much as Greensboro would like to have it back. These people have made commitments and provided a home for some of these ACC and NCAA events. So, I think we'll see things back to normal here as of the start of the 2017-18 school year. But, the state is going to miss out on a whole year of ACC and NCAA championships, as well as the NBA All-Star game, and not to mention, the concerts and entertainment and the businesses. And there has been a huge economic toll on this state. But culturally, I think the biggest, the hardest hit area has been sports, because that is something that is so important to the state of North Carolina and its identity.
At the end of the day, I'm curious, in your view, whose side of the table, whether it be, incoming governor or Governor-elect Cooper or outgoing Governor McCrory, they're both claiming it was their idea at this point in time, right? But can you cut through that at all to understand really what was at play here politically? Is it just simply the damage was far too great on an economic and social scale for the state that they had to come into a resolution, or is the one side pushed this thing harder and made more headway with leadership than the other, in your view?
It really comes down to the Charlotte City Council here, because that was the one thing that was going to make it easy for the General Assembly to repeal HB2. That was kind of what they'd been holding out for all along as sort of their faith-saving measure. We did this because of Charlotte, and if they repeal it, then we'll repeal ours. Now that the election's over, HB2 played a key role in 3 important statewide races, not only governor, but attorney general and state Supreme Court, in a state that voted heavily for Trump and a Republican Senate candidate. It went Democratic in those 3 races, the 3 races which had the most to do with HB2. So I think there's some sense on both sides that some political damage has been done here. Everyone at this point would like to move on.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.